This is your weekly tech recap with Jamal Abbott. News and insights about the tech world in plain English. Thank you for listening. In today's episode, we're going to hear quite a few stories about video. So we're going to hear first about the Disney Plus streaming video service that's coming out. Next story we're going to be listening to is about password hacks involving some popular video streaming services. We'll next hear about the T-Mobile TV service that's coming out later on this year, and then we'll get some updates about 5G involving AT&T and the US government. And then we'll round this out with Q&A from the Quora community. Disney launches the Disney Plus video streaming service. So this one is super exciting if you're a Disney fan because you're going to have a one-stop shop for all your Disney needs. So if you're a fan of Disney movies, Pixar movies, Marvel, Star Wars, and National Geographic, for the folks out there that are into nature and that kind of stuff, you're going to get it all in one place, and you're going to have access to this on any device that you own. This service offers ad-free programming, some original content, and then some of your classics from the Disney Vault itself. The service is also going to introduce some exclusive movie streams directly on this platform coming in 2019 and beyond. And then if you're a big fan of The Simpsons, let's just say that you can't get enough of The Simpsons, check this out. All 30 seasons of The Simpsons are going to be available on this platform. How crazy is that? The cost for this, $6.99 per month. Or if you want that little discount, you can get this for $70 a year. And then minutes after this announcement was made, guess what happened to the Netflix stock? It dropped. Not just a couple dollars. We're talking about $8 billion in valuation when this announcement was made by Disney. So you can tell here that the market's a little concerned about Netflix's position as it comes to Disney. I mean, Disney has been around for a long time. They have hit after hit. And then another thing to know about this as well, too, some of the deals that they had with Netflix as far as showing Disney type content on that platform, that's expired. And now all those are going to be exclusive to the Disney Plus app. So Netflix is going to be in a little trouble, too, especially since this streaming offering comes a little bit cheaper compared to what they're offering right now to consumers. But it should be pretty interesting to see how Netflix responds to this. Our next story involves passwords being compromised. So if you have a Hulu account, Netflix, Amazon, you may want to double check those passwords, especially if you're using the same one to access all of those services. So there was a report done by Acme, and they found that 25 billion email and passwords were stolen from these streaming sites. And then the crazy thing about this is that this information was being sold to unknown people out there on the internet for merely just a couple dollars. I mean, the crazy thing about this too is that it's not like this stuff costs a bunch of money. I mean, a couple dollars here for Netflix, a couple of dollars here for Hulu, and those dollars do add up over time. But by them selling that information off for just a few dollars, you don't want to have your dollars being taken advantage of for somebody that doesn't want to pay the full price like you're paying. So what we can do to combat this, you're going to have to check those passwords. And you know what? It might even be just a good idea altogether just to go ahead and change it. If you've used that same password for the last 5 or 10 years, you definitely need to change it. And then what's also scary too is that you actually won't know if this person is actually using their account. So the folks that are buying these emails and these passwords, they've been instructed by the market to not to modify anything on the profile, because if something's being modified or if there's another device being added or removed, that's a signal to the person that, hey, there's something going on here. Did you do this? You know, they'll get that email, they'll get that notification saying a new device has been added to their profile. So what they're doing is not doing anything at all other than watching and using your services without your knowledge. So it's a good idea to change those passwords if you haven't changed them for a while. And then also use complicated, difficult passwords that aren't so easy to guess. it's going to be a little work on your end to do this and to change this up for the different services. But in the end, you don't want anybody taking advantage of you and of your hard-earned dollars. So you need to get on this as soon as possible. I know I will get my passwords checked out, and just to make sure that nobody's using my Hulu or my Amazon account. Our next story involves T-Mobile and their new TV service that they just introduced. Service is called T-Vision Home, and it's aimed to disrupt the cable and the satellite service providers that are delivering video services to the home. With this service, you'll have access to Netflix as well as other TV programming that T-Mobile's negotiated with. And this service is going to be introduced to 8 markets initially, with plans to expand to a national footprint later on this year. Now, T-Mobile says that this TV package that they're offering is part of the bigger vision of 5G to the home. And then with 5G, one of the promises about this is that these speeds will be actually fast enough to where you and I can look at a 5G connection to replace that wired connection coming into the home. But what T-Mobile is also saying too is that they won't be able to do this not unless the government approves a merger that they want with Sprint. So by Sprint and T-Mobile combining together, utilizing those resources together, they can provide some additional competition to the market. So that's what T-Mobile is saying. And if this deal doesn't happen, then they won't be able to do this. So this is very interesting because I am not too sure about this TV service itself, right? You can go out there and go get YouTube TV. You can use PlayStation View. So that's an app that I've used personally. And then you can get, your TV shows, you can get your sports, all those things for under the price that they're coming in at. So T-Mobile saying, we'll offer this TV service in addition to some of these other apps for $90 a month. And if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, you get like a $10 discount. With like your PlayStation View or even the YouTube TV service, that's coming somewhere around $50 or $60 depending upon the options and the package that you have. So I'm still scratching my head on this one. I'm not sure why me as a consumer, if I'm in this market, and once again, it's only introduced to 8 markets total, why would I want to go after that when I can go for one of these other platforms, not have to worry about the dedicated box? And then T-Mobile states that they're going to not have the dedicated cable box coming down the road. But why would I want to go with that when I can go with these other online offerings and I can get that anywhere in the United States and not have to be in a specific market waiting for the service to come? So like I said, it's a head scratcher, but I understand the long-term vision that T-Mobile has, which is to say we're not going to be able to provide competition into the market if we can't merge with Sprint. So it's like they're almost like stacking the deck and then showing the government to say like, look, if you don't get this going, if you don't approve this, nobody else is going to do this out there. It's just going to be the status quo, and the consumers are going to be left with the options they have right now, which is contracts and then shows and, just packages that the consumers don't want. And they're saying also too, these are the things that consumers are tired of. They're tired of being locked in. They're tired of having the poor customer service by some of these larger establishments, and they want a better choice. They want a different choice. And like we've said on the show here before too, when there's more competition in the market, that's better for you and I, because we have these companies that are actually fighting for our dollars, which leads to better service, to better innovations, and just a better overall experience for us that want to subscribe to these type of services. More to come. We'll see how this plays out. And then T-Mobile will eventually make this a larger scale offering to where it's going to be introduced nationwide, as well as have it to where there's not a dedicated box, but have like an app that's going to be used all across your devices. So more to come. This will be interesting to see how this all plays out. 5G news. So AT&T announced this week that they have 5G service live in some new markets. We have 7 different cities. I'll just kind of run through these real quick. So new AT&T 5G cities: Austin, Texas; Los Angeles; Nashville; Orlando; San Diego; San Francisco; San Jose. Now, With these markets being added, this brings the total number of 5G cities by AT&T up to 19. And this looks good for AT&T because they're actually showing that they're making things happen with this 5G network. People are still confused. People are still not too sure if this 5G thing is real. If you're listening to this show, you know it's real because this is what we've been talking about. We've been talking about the actions that these different phone companies have been taking. But now they're up to 19 and they're going as planned. Their speeds are up there. The speeds are real. And pretty soon, there's actually going to be 5G phones that you can use on the AT&T network. Now, this isn't going to come until spring of this year, and then some more 5G phones will be coming here pretty soon. So if you happen to be in an AT&T market and you're using 5G, you're going to be using like a Wi-Fi hotspot to connect your existing smartphone and your existing laptop to take advantage of the 5G speeds. Now, to complement this message, the US government has announced that they're going to make some regulatory changes to the way 5G is being deployed. And this is actually a good thing. So it's going to be easier for the wireless carriers to get permits, to get the regulations cleared so they can move quickly to deploy these networks. Now, the government has an incentive to do this. They want the bragging rights to say, we're the first country in the world to have nationwide 5G coverage and the best. We talked about South Korea having that designation last week, but this is a smaller country, nothing to take against them, but it's a smaller country. It's not on the scale as the United States. The United States wants to be the world's leader when it comes to technology, and they want to make sure that places like China, to places like parts of Europe, don't have that honor to say that they're the first to put 5G out there for the world to see. So they're clearing the regulatory hurdles for the carriers to deploy their networks. What they're also doing too is they're coming up with a plan to give them this opportunity to make this happen quicker. So FCC announced this plan called 5G Fast, 3-part plan. First part is to free up spectrum. So spectrum is the airways that are currently regulated by the government, but the wireless carriers have the opportunity to bid on the parts of the airwaves that they can use these services to transfer and receive data over the network for us as consumers. So that's the first part. Second part of this, to make this a little bit easier for the carriers, is to clear some of the hurdles to have this infrastructure installed. So they're going to be working with state and local governments to make sure that the process to obtain the necessary permits aren't a burden on them and not have it to where it drags out over a long period of time. So that's the second part. The third part about this 5G Fast plan is to encourage the deployment of fiber optic networks. So fiber is important because these are the cables that are needed to transfer data from the grounds to the airwaves. So usually if you have like a cell phone tower in like a metropolitan area, you'll have the tower, you'll have the radio signals and the radio equipment, and then you need the cabling that takes it from that tower going back to like your AT&T office, your Sprint office, your Verizon office. And then that's how the data is being transferred back and forth. They're making it easier for this fiber optic to be deployed, and they're encouraging development for fiber optic services. So there's more details. If you want to look into this, go to jamalabbott.com and then check out this episode. And I have the link there to the description of this particular announcement. Okay, so now we are transitioning to the question and answer part. And if you want to ask a question, you can always email me, jamal@thephoneguy.com. You can also hit me up on any other social media platform. I'm on Quora, I'm on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Our first question comes from David, and he wants to know if email or calling is the best customer service strategy. And I would say that it all depends on where you're at and the customers that you're involved with. So for instance, if you have customers that don't want to be bothered with phone calls, then we know that phone calls aren't going to be a good strategy for customer service. If you're dealing with maybe older customers and they're not too tech savvy when it comes to email, then calling is going to be a better strategy. or for them to use telephone to pick up and call you, or vice versa if you need to call them and reach them. In the places that I've worked with, I've used a combination of both. So if it's a tech savvy customer, and I can kind of tell this just depending on how they put in the customer service requests. If it's a tech savvy customer, I will try to reach them via email, or maybe shoot them a text message using an instant messaging application. And if I can't reach them that way, then I'll call them, leave them a voicemail. So really, I will use any type of medium available for me to reach that customer, and then I'll let the customer decide on how they best want to reach me back. So I might get the phone call back, and then we get that request knocked out over the phone, or it might just be an email, or it might be a message. So it all depends on the customer, but there's really there's not one best method to use. It all depends on the people that you're supporting and then how receptive they are to the tools. So try them all, use what works best for your customers, and that's going to be the best strategy for customer support. Our next question comes from an anonymous source, and they want to know, why are telephone skills important? Telephone skills are important because we still use telephones in the workplace today. Now, on the consumer side of things and in our society, we've actually gotten away from calling people, especially with the younger generations. It's text first, shoot you a message first, and if it's an emergency, then you may have the permission to call me. That's the world that we're in today. On the other hand, in the business world, depending on the environment you're in, but for the most part, the phone has not gone away. For instance, if you are in a dispatch center and you're dealing with 911 calls, you're dealing with fires, you're dealing with those type of emergency situations, you can't get away with the text message. You're going to pick up the phone, you're going to call, and then you're going to get the business knocked out as soon as possible. It's important to have telephone skills because you need to speak and use the tools available to you. So for instance, if I'm on the phone call and you need to ask a simple question, don't you want to have confidence in the person that you're talking to? And then don't you want to know for sure that that person understands what you're trying to say over the telephone and then get your issue fixed in a heartbeat? Now, typically with phone calls, you have a more immediate response when it comes to questions or when it comes to support, just kind of like what we talked about in the previous question. It's more immediate when you're on the phone versus an email or maybe some type of message that's sent that's text-based. With those type of messages, they're going to be returned once that person gets the message, they write a response, and then they shoot it back to you. But there's more opportunities when it comes to that message being interrupted when it's text-based versus when you're on the phone. So typically when you're on the phone, it's immediate, and then you don't have to worry about a distraction coming through because of that real-time conversation that's taking place. Telephone skills are still important today because our younger generation, like we talked about, has primarily been message first. The older generations that are in the workplace, they still want to talk to you. They still want to hear your voice. So there's going to be kind of not necessarily like a conflict, but there's going to be a merging of communication preferences in the workplace today, and it's just important to know how to use and how to navigate the telephone because you're going to be asked to use that at times to get the job done. And if you don't have those skills, then it's going to be that much more difficult for you to get the job done, and we don't want that for you. So the best way to do this is just to pick up the phone, practice, not to be scared. This is a tool that we need, and it's still going to be relevant here today. We may have some other innovations that come, but for the time being now, the telephone is still important, and it's still important for us to sharpen up the skills that we have to get business done using that technology and that tool. All right, we have another anonymous question, and this one says, how do I become more confident while talking to people? I'm not even 20 yet, and this has ruined most of my life. All right, so I definitely feel you on this particular question, and it's something that I struggle with myself too, and I just didn't know how to be confident with talking to other people. How I got over this was really just to put myself out there in that situation. Learning how to talk to people, it's something that you can't watch. I mean, you can watch other people and then see how they engage and how they interact with other individuals, which is a strategy that I employed. But you're not going to be able to get over this not without putting in the work. So you have to put yourself out there in those situations where you're able to engage in conversations. And then ultimately, you're going to have to just get past this fear of talking to people. And I think that's what it is. When you're not confident in your abilities, there may be some type of fear or some type of insecurity that's holding you back. For me, I know that I can stutter if I get too far ahead of myself. And then I figured, you know what? If I don't talk that much, then I don't have to worry about stuttering, and then I don't have to worry about looking crazy. So I'm just going to hold it back. Now, the only problem with that is you end up not being able to express yourself, or you may not be able to participate and take advantage of the opportunities that life has to offer because you're afraid to speak, you're afraid to use your voice and to communicate with the rest of the world. And that's a problem. We don't want you to do that. What I did to help me get over that, I got some tools. So one of the books that I read that I love dearly, I believe it's called The Fine Art of Small Talk by Deborah Fine. The Fine Art of Small Talk by Deborah Fine. And this book teaches you how to engage in conversation. So she gives some great examples of how to interact in certain social situations. And then really going back into the previous question about how to use the telephone or the telephone skills, like why are those important? You'll learn some of those techniques in this book, and they will give you just some pointers and some guides on how to engage in those type of conversations. Once you understand the principles, and then once you understand how it's being done by other people, then you can take that, and then once again, you have to practice. Now, it's going to be a little goofy for you to go up to somebody and say, hey, you know what? I don't know how to talk to people. I just want to practice in front of you, unless these are your friends. But you're not going to want to just say it flat out to somebody that you don't know that well. Hey, I don't know how to talk to people. But you're going to have to get that practice somehow, some way. So you just have to put yourself in those social situations, and then you're just going to have to practice how to talk. And then once you do that, you're going to gain that confidence to press through. You're going to gain that confidence to jump into other conversations. And then you'll also get that confidence, which will ultimately allow you to lead conversations and maybe even have it to where you have events at your house or parties or other get-togethers. And then you may be the life of the party because you're the one that's inviting these people in, and then you're not afraid to share your life and then your experiences with other people. So that's one way you can do it. You can read about it and then you practice it. And then I'm going to plug this because you know that I'm in Toastmasters, but Toastmasters has been great too, and it gives you opportunities to speak. So the good thing about being in Toastmasters is that when you do speak, when you do put yourself out there, the audience isn't going to judge you. They're going to help you. They're going to give you pointers to improve, your speech, to improve your talk, and they're going to show you some things that you personally can't see by listening to yourself, talking on the phone or talking in person. Those people in that club are going to show you some things that you just can't see on your own. So that's another strategy that you can employ to gain that confidence when you go out and talk to other people. And so this is a struggle for some of us, especially like for myself. I was definitely a shy and quiet kid and didn't really speak for myself a lot as a kid. But you can gain the confidence, but that confidence only comes by putting yourself out there, by getting the experience, and then also getting the knowledge that you need so you can become a confident speaker, which will lead to a better life for you. So I do feel for you. And the great thing about this too is that, with you being 20, you're still young, so you still have opportunities to grow from this experience, and then you can make the rest of your life better compared to the earlier part of your years. So good luck to you, and I hope this helps. Okay, everyone, I thank you so much for rocking with me today. I hope you learned something. I hope that you took something away from this talk and then from this weekly tech report. If you want to connect with me some more, hit me up on social media, shoot me an email, Jamal Abbott jamalabbott.com is where this show lives. You can send me an email, and the email address is jamal@thephoneguy.com. If you want to leave a rating and review, you can leave it on iTunes or wherever you have access to this podcast. But I definitely want to get your feedback. Let me know how this is working out for you, and then let me know what you think. So I tried this episode today based on the feedback that I got from you all, not to use the notes so much. So let me know how this format is. Does it sound a little bit more natural, or do you want me to go back to reading the script? Let me know what you think, and I really do appreciate you listening, and then can't wait to talk to you again soon. So have an amazing day. Check you out later.